Este taller es una continuación de lo que ya tuvimos en la mañana sobre cómo contar historias que evoquen emociones en las noticias, no concentrarnos tanto en el qué decir, sino en el cómo decirlo y en explicar las noticias. Y eso luego tuvo un complemento con la conferencia que tuvimos de periodismo y automatización desde España, que nos acompañó Miguel Túñez, ¿sí? Y ahora pues le daremos un enfoque, Al Tompkins del Instituto Poynter nos va a compartir sus experiencias con ejemplos de cómo luchar contra las fakes, aunque al gobierno de Estados Unidos no le gusta el término fake news, pero sí luchar contra la desinformación o la información errónea, ¿sí? Y nosotros como USFQ queremos comentarles que este año hemos iniciado la segunda fase del proyecto Desinformación en tiempos de COVID-19, que es un proyecto ejecutado entre la Universidad UTE, Universidad de San Francisco de Quito, la UTPL, la UTC, que son parte del Observatorio Interuniversitario de Medios Ecuatorianos, o IME, que ustedes van a conocer el jueves, y también con 2 medios de comunicación, Código Vidrio y Diario El Universo. Eric, ¿les puedes comentar más cómo nació este proyecto y qué hacemos en eso?
Sí, claro, rápidamente es que la primera fase consistió en luchar en contra de la desinformación. De nuevo, como lo dijo Tania, no nos gusta mucho el término de fake news porque se supone que lo que es news no debe ser fake, debe ser real. Nos preferimos utilizar la palabra de desinformación. Entonces, la primera etapa consistió realmente en toda una serie de, creo que fueron 12 o 15 webinars, más una serie de papers sobre todos los casos de desinformación en el marco de la pandemia. Y este año empezamos una segunda etapa, igualmente con el financiamiento de la Embajada de los Estados Unidos. Y eso es la razón por la cual hoy estamos como que medio dando un inicio oficial a eso, porque esa actividad, lo que Al Tompkins nos va a dar ahorita es hablarnos de herramientas para luchar en contra de la desinformación, que es exactamente la temática que nos interesa en ese proyecto. Por lo tanto, es un perfecto inicio, por más que el proyecto nunca paró. Digamos, es una buena ocasión de empezar oficialmente con esta segunda etapa de ese proyecto de lucha en contra de la desinformación con la conferencia de Al. Al, very quickly, I just explained them that we several others university, we have been winning 2 grants to fight against disinformation. The last year it was disinformation and COVID, during the pandemic. Then we have won a second one with private media, with others university to have a second stage of this fight against disinformations. And we are kind of beginning officially today with your conference, like the first activity of that new phase, because of course you are going to give us tips and apps to identify and combat disinformation. So it's a very good official beginning of that second stage against disinformation. So Al, it's your turn.
Excellent. Do know this, and that is ask questions. Constantly be asking questions. We have people monitoring the chat, but think of this as your time, not my time. Think of this as me serving you. And I want you to ask questions that you need to know answers to. So I'll try to be really practical. I'll try to be really precise, but it's important to me that you be selfish.
Sure, ok. Entonces, les repito lo que dijo esta mañana, sean egoístas. Si hay cosas que ustedes como persona, profesor, periodista, editor, necesitan saber, no esperen, manden la pregunta inmediatamente en el chat. Tania lo vigila, yo también, nuestros asistentes, para que podamos pasar las preguntas hacia él. Entonces, no tengan problema, manden las preguntas que tienen, apenas les tengan y les transmitiremos lo más rápidamente posible al Tompkins.
So let me just tell you what I've got in mind. And in all probability, we'll get through all of this. But if we take some side trips, then other things might take over. I want to talk some about the difference between truth and accuracy.
Bueno, eso es un poco el programa de hoy. Normalmente alcanzaremos para tratar todo eso, a menos que nos vayamos por caminos secundarios que nos hagan hablar de otra cosa, pero normalmente Al les quiere hablar de la diferencia entre verdad y accuracy, en español, ¿cómo será? ¿Precisión? No. Guys, someone help me. Accuracy and precision, digamos, precision, something like that?
Yeah,
No.
precision, yeah.
Precision, yeah, okay. Precision.
Yeah. How rumors travel so quickly and why?
¿Por qué las rumores viajan tan rápidamente?
And how the words that you choose, even when you're using an online search, determine the quality of your result.
Cómo las palabras que ustedes utilizan en una búsqueda online determinan la calidad del resultado final.
I want to talk some about algorithms. I want you to understand what algorithms are and how they work on both Google and social media. This made a lot of news recently with Facebook's algorithms.
Yeah, es con los algoritmos de Facebook ha sido en la noticia. Al quiere que ustedes entiendan cómo funcionan los algoritmos, en particular en Google y las redes sociales.
I want to walk you through some new editing software that makes it easier to fake and also makes it easier to detect using metadata.
Alors, les quiere hacer conocer nuevos software de edición que hacen más fácil de hacer fake news y cómo utilizar los metadatos para detectar información falsa.
So also, I'm going to show you some new tools that you can use to search to verify images and video because there's so much fake stuff out there.
Y hay tantas fotos falsas y manipuladas que les quiere mostrar lo último de las aplicaciones para verificar la veracidad de una imagen.
So that's a lot, but I'm pretty sure we'll get through it, and I hope that it's useful to you. So let's start by sort of exercising your critical thinking skills. Let's get your brains going here.
Okay, aquí necesita que su cerebro esté funcionando, por más que sea las 5:30, y hay que dar un poco de ejercicio a las herramientas de pensamiento crítico.
So I'm going to start by showing you a commercial. This commercial you see on American television all the time, and I suspect you see some version of this on Ecuadorian television as well.
Eso, por ejemplo, Al les dice que eso es una publicidad que en América se ve todo el tiempo y se pregunta o sospecha que capaz que es lo mismo aquí en Ecuador.
So this is a spray called a sanitizing spray.
Eso se llama un spray, un desodorante, sanitizing de limpieza.
All right, so I'm going to let you watch it and then let's talk about it.
Every time you touch a surface, bacteria is left behind. Now consider how many times your family touches the surfaces in your home in 24 hours. Try Microban 24. Spray on hard surfaces to kill 99.9% of viruses and bacteria initially. Once dry, it forms a bacteria shield that keeps killing bacteria for 24 hours, even after multiple touches. Try Microban 24. Available in multi-purpose sanitizing and bathroom sprays. This is
all right. So let me ask you, and you can put it in the chat if you want to. What does this stuff do?
Ok, entonces lo pueden poner en el chat si quieren, ¿no? Pero básicamente la pregunta de Al es, esa cosa de Microban 24 horas para ustedes, ¿qué hace? O en audio o en el chat.
Yeah. So, yeah, what if you were using this, what would you expect that it does?
O sea, si ustedes utilizan eso, según lo que ha dicho la publicidad, ¿qué esperarían que esa cosa haga? A ver, déjame ver si hay respuestas. Okay, we have Martina who says it kills most of the germs. I would expect to evade COVID, free of bacteria. Let me see. I need a link of register. No.
Okay. Okay, so let's just play with that for a second. Okay. You would expect, if I understood what you said, you would expect this to help you avoid COVID. Do I have that right?
Yes, lots of people say avoid COVID, avoid bacteria, keep me safe.
Now I want you to think critically just for a minute. Is that what they said?
Ahorita piensen críticamente los que dijeron, ¿eso es lo que dijeron en la publicidad?
Every time you touch a surface, bacteria is left behind.
So there she's talking about bacteria.
Yeah. Cada vez que ustedes tocan algo, las bacterias están encima.
Is COVID a bacteria?
¿Es COVID una bacteria? No.
What is it?
It's a virus.
It's a virus. Does this kill virus?
Now consider how many times your family touches the surfaces in your home in 24 hours. Try Microban 24. Spray on hard surfaces to kill 99.9% of viruses and bacteria initially.
All right, so this kills 99.9% of bacteria initially. What does that mean?
¿Qué significa que mata 99,9% de viruses y bacterias inicialmente? ¿Qué creen que significa?
I think Hetty has a hand raised.
Okay. Is it possible to open the mic of Heidi?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi, Heidi, tell us.
My name is Heidi. When it says that it cleans 99.9% initially, it means that we only have to use one time.
Oh, no, that's not what it means at all. That's
Okay.
what I think a reasonable person would believe that. But that's not how viruses work. Remember, if you've got 0.1% of viruses that are not killed, what's going to happen? Within seconds, the viruses will replicate.
O sea, lo que dice Al es que los viruses funcionan igual si queda un 0,1% de virus. Y que
within a minute, you'll have a complete countertop full of viruses again.
O sea, el virus regresará. O sea, el hecho de que quede, aunque sea poquito, no lo matan.
The other question is, can you catch COVID by touching a surface?
La otra pregunta es, ¿podemos coger COVID tocando una superficie?
The answer is no. COVID is an airborne virus.
La respuesta es normalmente no, porque ahorita se sabe
It
que
doesn't mean you can't, but you probably won't.
Yeah.
We don't think that COVID is transmitted by touching things. And so all of this spraying and wiping and all of that stuff, it's good for bacteria, but it doesn't do anything really to help you get COVID. For COVID,
o sea, ¿recuerdan lo que decíamos al inicio de la pandemia? Pensábamos que se podía tocar, pero después los estudios mostraron que el COVID se transmite más bien por aire. Entonces, se puede eventualmente contagiar tocando algo, pero es una posibilidad realmente baja.
Yeah. And so these companies that have sold billions of dollars worth of this stuff that you spray and you wipe and all that stuff, why hasn't that done anything to keep the infection rate down? Because that doesn't affect viruses in the air.
Porque básicamente, porque esas compañías que ganaron millones vendiendo ese tipo de spray, de limpiezas, no han contribuido, ya que han vendido tanto, a que la pandemia disminuye, es porque esos productos no afectan el virus en el aire.
So what this mostly does is kills bacteria, which is not all bacteria is bad, but some bacteria can cause colds or the flu, although the flu is an influenza, a virus. But mostly what this does is fights colds. It fights the germs that cause colds. It doesn't fight COVID.
Ese producto pelea más contra los gérmenes que provocan gripe, ese tipo de cosas, por más que la gripe sea un virus, pero realmente no pelea en contra de COVID.
So what I want you to get used to is, as you look at evidence, I want you to say, wait, what are they actually saying? What are they claiming? And where's the proof that that's true?
Entonces, básicamente lo que Al quiere que tengan como un poco estado de espíritu es, ok, ¿qué es lo que dicen y qué prueba tienen para afirmar lo que dicen?
And then they show graphics like this.
Muestran gráficos así.
But remember, this is bacteria. And so they can use this cleanser and it will kill bacteria for 24 hours, but it won't kill viruses for 24 hours.
Ok, ahí, por ejemplo, utilizan eso para decir, ok, mata bacterias durante 24 horas. Ok, eso es cierto, pero no viruses. No matan viruses durante 24 horas.
It only says that it kills viruses initially, that is, for an instant.
Solo dice que mata viruses de manera inicial, o sea, por un corto instante.
Well, this is interesting because would you say then that this commercial is untrue?
Entonces,
I would say
podríamos
no.
decir que, o sea, podemos decir que esa publicidad falla a la verdad y Al dice no.
It's accurate. The question is whether it's actually true. Did it say this isn't going to help you with COVID, but it will keep you from getting a cold?
Por ejemplo, dice, eso no les protege en contra del COVID, pero sí les protegerá en gran parte en contra de la gripe.
So one of the things I would say to you is there's a difference between being true and just being precise, being accurate.
Entonces hay una diferencia entre la verdad, decir la verdad y ser preciso.
There is a video that surfaced after the American election last year that claimed to be election workers stuffing ballots in a city called Flint, Michigan. President Trump talked about this.
Yeah, we speak. En las últimas elecciones en los Estados Unidos salió un video mostrando supuestamente miembros de la autoridad electoral llenando ánforas en la ciudad de Flint, en Michigan.
And this was the video. And if you look at the video, this is what you will see. It looks like a person putting a ballot in a ballot box.
Okay, lo que ven es una persona como que medio votando, ¿no? Poniendo un sufragio en la caja.
And then she walks over to a table and kind of looks around and picks up some more papers and puts those in the ballot box.
Y después va a la mesa, coge otros papeles y les pone otra vez.
And then she grabs some more. And here's
más.
another guy. He's putting some papers in the ballot box.
Y un tipo pone más papeles.
He goes to the same person and grabs some more.
Coge más. Pone
And
más.
he puts those in there. Now, this was shown widely by Trump's people and people who kept saying that the American election was stolen.
Eso
It was
fue
shown
mostrado
widely.
Eso fue mostrado largamente por los partidarios del expresidente Trump para decir la elección fue robada.
It was shown widely as proof that there were people stealing, stuffing the ballot box with false documents.
Sí, la idea era decir, hay gente que pone falsos sufragios en las cajas.
So I became really interested in this video because I was captivated by that logo that's on the curtains, but also on the ballot box.
Al se interesó en ese video mirando ese logo que está en la ánfora y también esa parte derecha superior de la imagen.
It didn't look like any logo I had ever seen at any state. It didn't look like any state flag. It didn't look like anything that I'd seen that was familiar to me.
Y Al miró eso y dijo, eso no me suena familiar a nada. O sea, no parece ser el logo de un estado. O sea, no sabía de qué se trataba, pero no le parecía familiar.
And so all I did was a reverse photo search.
Hizo lo que se llama un reverse Photoshop, una búsqueda.
Which I'll show you how to do in a little while.
Lo que vamos a hacer hoy.
But what you will find is that's the logo. That is the logo that you see on those curtains and that ballot box.
That would be what? San Miguel killing the dragon? What?
That would be on the Russian flag.
Oh, wow. Es en la bandera rusa, Rusia.
So this video did not come from Michigan in the United States. This video came from Russia, where during the Russian election, there were actually videos of people casting fake ballots.
Entonces eso sí muestra más bien que hubo gente poniendo boletos, sufragios falsos, pero en Rusia, no en Michigan, no en los Estados Unidos.
And so it really was fake voting. It just wasn't in the United States.
So, entonces el punto es que sí fue un fraude, prueba de un fraude, salvo que no en los Estados Unidos.
And by the way, it didn't happen in the election of 2020. It actually happened in 2018.
Ese video ocurrió durante las elecciones de 2018.
And this story was widely reported this video was widely discussed, and these people were actually charged with election fraud and convicted.
Y esas personas, de hecho, fueron acusadas y condenadas en Rusia por fraude electoral.
So if I were to ask any of you what this is, I want you to answer in the chat. I'm going to ask you 2 questions.
En el chat, miren eso y les va. Okay, the first question is, what this
First question is, what is this?
Okay, en el chat, todo el mundo ponga, ¿qué es eso? Apple.
It's an apple. All right.
Okay,
so my second question is it a whole apple?
Mi segunda pregunta, ¿es una manzana completa, entera? ¿Es entera o no? Okay, there are people who feel there is a, like a tricky question. So some say yes, others say no. I would say no, because I guess someone bite it where I cannot see it, but
it looks like a whole apple. But now that we're talking about fakes, I think I've raised your suspicions, right?
yeah.
All right. So there's a good reason for you to be suspicious, and that is, in fact, you're right. There's part of the apple missing.
Okay. Entonces, todas las personas que pusieron no, sospechando la trampa, tenían razón. Había esa mordida del otro lado, por más que la foto la mostraba entera.
So I would say that the image on the left is a fact.
So la imagen a la izquierda es un hecho.
But I think the image on the right is a truth.
Pero la verdad es la imagen a la derecha.
The difference between fact and truth is that you can get the facts right, but still not have the right facts.
Ok, entonces ustedes pueden tener los datos correctos, pero no tener la verdad.
You have to ask, is there more that I need to know? Is there a context that's missing?
Entonces la pregunta que tienen que hacerse viendo el hecho, la manzana aparentemente entera, es ¿cuál es el contacto? ¿Qué otros datos necesito saber? ¿Qué me falta?
Yeah. Remember that accuracy plus context equals truth.
Entonces recuerden que precisión y contexto es igual a verdad.
I would say that most fake information uses some predictable techniques. And so I want to give you the easiest ways to detect disinformation.
O sea, Al dice que la mayoría de las, digamos, de los engaños, de los intentos de desinformación, utilizan como que siempre las mismas tácticas o técnicas, y Al quiere explicarles un poco cuáles son.
First thing that people do when they try to mislead you is they make statements that are vague or doesn't give you real information. It just raises doubts.
La primera cosa que hacen es que la gente que quiere engañarles es que les dan oraciones vagas, que no son precisas.
If, for example, I said, is your teacher trustworthy? I'm not saying that they're not or they are. I'm just raising a doubt.
Por ejemplo, si la pregunta ¿es su profesor digno de confianza? No es un hecho de si lo es o si no lo es, pero sí levanta una duda.
And that's what disinformation does often, is it will raise a doubt where there is no reasonable doubt.
Y eso es lo que hace la desinformación. Crea una duda donde a veces no debería haber duda.
So if I say, did they steal the election? The answer is no. But just by asking the question, I raise doubts about whether there was theft in the election.
Entonces, si yo hago la pregunta, ¿han robado la elección? La respuesta es no, pero el simple hecho de preguntarlo levanta una duda de si la elección fue justa o no, o robada o no.
Is the source clearly identified? And is there a relationship between the source and the subject?
Sorry, Al, there is a question about the point one, which is,
of course,
but the point is we cannot avoid people making questions, so there will always have a doubt. Apparently,
it's okay. Go ahead.
No, that's
I see your question.
You cannot avoid people saying what happened there. So
okay, so there are what I would call real questions, and there are statements that poses questions.
O sea, Al dice que obviamente como no podemos impedir a la gente de hacer preguntas, hay las preguntas de verdad y las que no lo son.
As journalists, I'm willing to give voice to real questions. You know, how did the government spend its money is different from, is the government stealing?
Yo como periodista, debo estar listo para hacer preguntas, pero que son preguntas verdaderas, preguntas reales.
And one question I always ask is the person who's asking the question actually open to the answer? If they're not, then it's not a real question. It's a statement posing as a question.
Entonces, la primera pregunta es, ¿quién hace la pregunta? Si la persona que pregunta no es abierta a la respuesta, cual que sea esa respuesta, no es una pregunta de verdad. Es más un statement, es más una opinión, un punto de vista que hace la persona que pregunta.
It's good to ask questions, but make sure that when you are raising a question in your story, you're not pretending to ask a question when you really are stating an opinion. That's all.
Entonces, estén seguros, hasta ustedes como personas, cuando hacen una pregunta durante un reportaje, que ustedes hacen una pregunta de verdad, o sea, que les interesa genuinamente la respuesta y que su pregunta no es más bien un statement, un punto, una opinión suya.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. So is the source clearly identified? And is there a relationship between the source and the subject?
Entonces, aquí otra pregunta. Si la fuente es claramente identificable, si hay una relación entre la fuente y el objeto del mensaje.
Sometimes the disinformation comes from someone who would profit from you believing false information.
A veces la desinformación viene de una fuente que va a sacar provecho de ustedes al mandar esa falsa información.
They may profit financially, they may profit politically.
Puede ser una ganancia de plata, política.
Sometimes the reason for causing disinformation is just to cause chaos.
A veces hay gente que solamente quiere provocar caos.
Sometimes the reason for disinformation is to raise doubt.
Y a veces la razón de la desinformación es levantar duda.
Is this an emotional topic? Disinformation almost always centers on emotional issues.
La pregunta es ver si esa información es emocional, porque la desinformación casi siempre juega con la emoción.
The more emotional the issue is, the more ripe it is for disinformation, because people want you to tell them what they want to believe.
Mucha gente quiere de ustedes que les digan lo que ellos quieren creer. Entonces van a ser muy sensibles a mensajes emocionales que van en su sentido.
Our human nature is that we want to believe that what we already believe is right.
Eso es humano, pero mucha gente quiere que se le confirme que lo que piensa es correcto.
The phrase for this is called confirmation bias.
Eso se llama un bias. Alors, bias es la palabra, bias es cuando tú tienes una idea recibida, digamos, y eso se dice un bias de confirmación. O sea, yo quiero escuchar lo que confirma lo que yo ya pienso.
Ask yourself, do the facts seem too surprising to be true? Remember, most science rarely finds always or never answers. Most scientific discovery is situational. It's not definitive.
Pregunta 4, si los hechos parecen demasiado sorprendentes para ser verdad, o sea, demasiado bellos para ser verdad, y nos recuerda Al que los científicos típicamente rara vez encuentran respuestas así categóricas, blanco y negro, siempre o nunca. Eso no es muy científico, digamos.
Does the message use emotional music and images, video, children, animals? Are they using images to really attack your emotions?
Saber si el mensaje utiliza música emocional, imágenes, video de niños, de animales. Y just one thing, Edgar Francisco Tinoco, ¿cuál es la última pregunta que tú quieres que yo repita? Que no entendiste. There is a question from one. Edgar, si puedes mandar en el chat qué es lo que no entendiste para que te lo repita, porfa. Mándalo en el chat y lo haré. Ok, so eso es la pregunta 5 ya. Go.
I'm sorry, is there a question coming, Eric?
No. It's
sorry.
something that is asking someone. I'm not sure I understand. So I'm
Got
just
it. Okay.
asking to clarify.
How does this information fit with other reliable sources? Ask yourself, does this actually make sense? If this source is the only one that claims to know this, it's probably not true. It might be, but it probably isn't.
Yeah. O sea, ¿cómo si esa información calza con otras, lo que dicen otras fuentes confiables? Si no calza, es probablemente falsa. Podría ser verdad, pero probablemente no lo será.
So let me put this into action. This photo and video, actually, of this helicopter and this person flying was widely circulated after the Americans pulled out of Afghanistan.
Eso es después de Afganistán, ¿no? Ese video de una persona aparentemente suspendida en un helicóptero.
And it was widely reported to be the Taliban hanging a person, like, you know, around the neck, hanging a person from a helicopter and flying them around the city as a warning.
Y fue o sea, presentado como una imagen de un helicóptero pilotado por talibanes y con una persona colgada, paseada sobre la ciudad.
And so and there were lots of reports about this. You can see it. Even Ted Cruz, who's a United States Senator, said this.
O sea, ustedes ven, les está mostrando algunos reportes. Hasta Ted Cruz, que es un senador norteamericano, lo repitió en su Twitter.
And so this video was all over the place. Now, this is an American TV guy, one of the most watched cable news people on Fox News. His name is Sean Hannity.
Un anchor de Fox News, uno de los más seguidos en las noticias por cable.
His name is Sean Hannity.
Y se llama Sean Hannity.
And this is what he said.
But we're investigating who exactly is hanging from that chopper and the details surrounding that footage. Here now with reaction, former State Department spokeswoman Morgan Ortagus and Congressman Michael Waltz. Congressman, I look at that and I get sick to my stomach.
So Hannity says, we're investigating that video. When I see it, I get sick to my stomach.
O sea, Hannity dice, estamos ahorita investigando, buscando la identidad de la persona que ahorcada y paseada por debajo, y eso me hace enfermo.
So of all those things that I just talked to you about, the ways to detect disinformation, think about all of the things that just happened that fit into that. One,
de todo lo que les ha dicho Hal sobre cómo detectar desinformación, piensen cómo esos elementos calzan en esa historia, en ese video.
One is it's amazing, shocking video.
Primero, es un video que te choca, que te provoca.
It's emotional.
Es emocional.
Hannity is a big supporter of Trump and a loud, strong critic of Joe Biden.
Hannity es un partidario de Donald Trump y un gran adversario del presidente actual Joe Biden.
What he's clearly trying to do here is persuade his viewers with the idea that this probably is true, even though he's just really raising a question without real evidence.
Y está tratando de hacer entender que de eso que es verdad, de lo que se ve es verdad, por más que básicamente solo está haciendo una pregunta, está levantando una duda.
In fact, that video is not a person hanging from a helicopter at all.
El problema es que ese video no muestra una persona, no es una persona la que está colgada del helicóptero.
it's a Taliban flown helicopter. That's true. But they're lowering him to place a flag on top of one of the government buildings.
Eso es un helicóptero piloteado por un talibán o alguien que apoya a los talibanes. Y de hecho hay una persona, pero no está muerta. La están bajando encima de un edificio alto para que suba una bandera de los talibanes.
So it's not an example of Taliban cruelty. It's simply not true. And by the way, they never came back on and corrected it or clarified it. They just moved on, which is very common for them.
Entonces eso es una información que simplemente no es cierta y nos indica que jamás regresaron sobre esas imágenes para decir nos equivocamos, no era así, simplemente olvidaron esa noticia cuando se hizo público que era una desinformación.
At the same time, there were these photographs taken inside one of the airplane hangars there at the airport in Kabul.
Al mismo tiempo, eso es una imagen que salió de un galpón en el aeropuerto de Kabul.
And the story said that the American government is pulling out of Kabul and leaving behind brave U.S. military working dogs to be tortured and killed at the hands of our enemies.
Y la historia decía que el gobierno americano se estaba yendo de Kabul, dejando atrás unos perros militares de mucho coraje para que sean torturados y matados por los talibanes.
And that came from a group that was called American Humane, which sounds like a real group called the American Humane Society, which is an animal rights group.
Y eso vino, si lo ven de American Humane, que es un nombre que es muy parecido a una sociedad que se llama American Humane Society, que es una sociedad real de protección de animales.
In fact, this is not what it appears to be. These aren't American service dogs.
Y obviamente, eso no es lo que parece. Esos perros que vemos no son perros militares.
By the way, this tweet is from Rick Scott. He is also a United States Senator, a Republican, Trump supporter.
Y eso, por ejemplo, es un tweet que viene de Rick Scott, que también es un senador republicano.
Who says,
de Donald Trump.
He says it's infuriating. Biden stranded Americans. He's stranding our allies. Now he's stranding our loyal canine warriors. I'll say it again.
Estoy furioso. Biden abandonó los americanos, nuestros aliados, y ahorita abandona a los perros.
I'll say it again. The scope and consequences of Biden's failure in Afghanistan is staggering.
Y lo repito, eso es el tweet, ¿no? Repito, las consecuencias del fracaso de Biden en Afganistán es staggering.
Surprising. Yeah. Disgusting.
Es lamentable.
So what's going on here? According to John Kirby, who is the Pentagon spokesman, he says, as you can see at the bottom, to correct erroneous reports, the U.S. military did not leave any dogs in cages at the international airport, included the reported military working dogs. The photos circulated online were animals under the care of the Small Animal Rescue, people trying to get the dogs out of the country, but they're not American service dogs.
Eso, por ejemplo, John Kirby, que es el portavoz del Pentágono, tuvo que decir para corregir reportes equivocados. Los militares americanos no dejaron ningún perro en el aeropuerto Hamid Karzai, ni siquiera los perros militares. Las fotos que circulan son animales que están efectivamente en una sociedad de protección animal en Kabul, pero no son perros militares del ejército norteamericano.
Once again, the United States Senator never issued a correction.
Y Rick Scott nunca corrigió la cosa, nunca dijo, me equivoqué, no eran perros nuestros.
And once you have someone on the record, like Rick Scott, for example, then journalists often will quote them as a United States Senator and say, well, this came from a U.S. Senator, it must be true.
Y muchos periodistas que siguen, ¿no?, las cuentas de políticos van a decir, eso viene de la cuenta de un senador norteamericano, debe ser cierto.
but it's not.
pero no lo es.
Remember, accuracy plus context equals truth.
Entonces, recuerden, precisión y contexto da la verdad.
The thing that we forget most often is to look for context, like that apple.
O sea, hay que mirar contexto como la manzana esta.
Just because you believe it does not make it true.
No solamente porque lo creen, lo hace cierto.
So I want to walk you down the trail of a rumor that developed almost exactly a year ago.
Entonces, nos va a llevar en la huella de un rumor que ocurrió más o menos hace un año.
The lesson from this rumor is this, that correlation and causation are not the same.
La lección de este rumor es que la correlación y lo que la provocó no es lo mismo.
This is one of the big lessons of the day for us, is remember that just because two things happen at about the same time doesn't mean one thing caused the other thing to happen.
O sea, primero es que no es porque dos cosas ocurrieron más o menos al mismo tiempo, no significa que una provocó, causó la segunda.
If I had my phone to my head and then I had a heart attack and died, would there be a correlation?
Ok, si yo estoy hablando al teléfono ahí cerca de mi oreja y de repente me viene un ataque cardíaco, ¿podría haber una correlación? Preguntar.
The answer is yes. One thing happened at about the same time the other thing happened. There's definitely a correlation.
Entonces, y la respuesta es sí, como dijo Heidi, también dice sí hay una correlación. Las dos cosas ocurrieron al mismo tiempo.
But the real question is there a causation? Did my phone cause me to have a heart attack and die? Well,
Pero
for that,
obviamente
I'm going to need a lot more evidence.
Yeah. Porque, pero la pregunta importante, dice Al, es que necesitamos determinar la causación, causation, lo que causó, digamos, la muerte o el ataque cardíaco, y para comprobar que el teléfono provocó eso, vamos a necesitar muchísimo más pruebas.
So this is a woman named Patricia. She's from Austin, Texas, and she was part of the Pfizer drug trial last summer.
Eso es Patricia de Austin, hizo parte de los ensayos de la vacuna Pfizer.
And she was, she posts a lot of photos of herself on Instagram and Snapchat and so on. And she was one of 40,000 people in the Pfizer drug trial.
Eran 40,000 en ese ensayo de prueba, ¿no? En ese ensayo clínico. Ella es una señora que es muy activa en Instagram, en Snapchat.
And she said that since she was part of the drug trial, since she was a volunteer, that she was going to document her experience on her Instagram page so that all of her followers would know what it was like to take the vaccine before the rest of the world, had access to it.
Entonces, antes de que el resto del mundo tenga acceso a la vacuna Pfizer, ella dijo que, mira, les voy a contar lo que me pasa para que ustedes, mis seguidores, sepan lo que me pasa.
So, not long after she participated in the drug trial, she posted this photograph. Now, I've got a white dot over her foot, but not long after she participated in the drug trial, she got a big open sore on her foot.
Entonces, poco después de participar a ese ensayo, tuvo una herida profunda en su pie. Puso una cosa, eso, el punto blanco está agregado por Al.
And not long after that, she took a picture of her other foot because she had another sore on her other foot.
Y después sacó otra foto de su otro pie, donde tenía otra herida en su otro pie.
Now, remember, this was way before, there was many months before, several months before the American public was allowed to start getting these vaccines, or anybody really was able to get these vaccines. So all we really knew about the vaccine was what we were hearing from the people in the drug trial.
Entonces, eso recuerden que era antes de que la vacuna haya sido aceptada, comprobada, entonces se sabía poco de Pfizer y lo único que se sabía era un poco lo que decían los influencers, como ellos.
So people started saying, wow, I don't want to get a vaccine that's going to make my skin blow open and have a big sore.
Obviamente la gente empezó a decir, oye, no quiero que me vacunen con algo que me va a hacer tantos problemas, tantas heridas en la piel y en el pie.
So she started writing to all of her followers what was going on. One doctor told her that it could be a drug reaction.
Entonces empezó a escribir en sus redes sociales lo que la gente le decía. Una fue, un doctor le dijo que podría ser una reacción a la... When you say drug, you said the vaccine?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
he said it could be a drug reaction, possibly from the vaccine.
Okay, entonces dijo que podía ser una reacción posiblemente a la vacuna.
So she posted that obviously on her social media page, along with the actual written diagnosis from the doctor. She posted it on online.
Ok, y entonces puso eso en línea con el diagnóstico.
Then one of her family members started a GoFundMe page that raised $5,000 from 100 people to help her pay for her medical bills.
Después un miembro de su familia empezó una campaña a través de la plataforma GoFundMe, o sea, Financiame más o menos, que levantó más de $5,000 de 100,000 personas. Hola.
Pfizer became so concerned about this that they did something they almost never do, and that is they opened their blind study files.
Y Pfizer estuvo, o sea, eso fue compartido miles de veces, y Pfizer se preocupó muchísimo y hicieron algo que casi nunca hacen, que fue abrir lo que llaman blind study files, o sea, ustedes saben que cuando se hace un ensayo clínico no se sabe quién recibe o no el placebo y la vacuna. Hicieron público eso. Es un problema mío, yo no escucho algo.
So whatever caused her injury, it wasn't the vaccine.
Y el problema es que al abrir eso se demostró que Patricia no tuvo la vacuna, sino un placebo. Entonces, lo que sea que haya provocado su problema en el pie, no fue la vacuna, no fue Pfizer.
But by then, the story was global and the rumors were spreading that the vaccine was harmful. And it was one of the first stories that started raising concerns about the safety of this vaccine.
Pero entonces la historia ya se había vuelto global y los rumores se habían esparcido tanto de que la vacuna podía provocar problemas en ese entonces.
I want to remind you that there have been virtually no such reports in the hundreds of millions of whatever was going on with Patricia. It was not.
I'm just cutting. Are you okay with your internet? Because sometimes your audio is just fine, but sometimes me and others, you can kind of disappear 2 or 3 seconds. You're okay with internet? Or,
yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay. No, let's go. It's I don't know what's happening. Can you repeat the last sentence, Al, please?
Yeah. So Patricia didn't get the vaccine; she got the placebo. But by then, the story was global, and the rumors were spreading that the vaccine was harmful. Okay. It's important to remember that of the hundreds of millions of people around the world who have gotten this vaccine, having skin problems is not one of the side effects that's been reported.
Y de los cientos de millones de personas que recibieron la vacuna Pfizer, los problemas de piel nunca han sido reportados como siendo un efecto secundario.
But this was one of the first examples of harmful side effects that came out even before the vaccine was approved. And it started causing problems for people who might want to get the vaccine, but were concerned about it.
Y obviamente, bueno, gente que podía tener ganas de vacunarse, de repente empezaron a preocuparse, a preguntarse si sí o no.
There were lots of other stories like this one, a headline that said 23 die in Norway after receiving the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine.
Hubo muchísimas historias iguales en el mundo. Ese es uno. 23 muertos en Noruega después de ser vacunado con Pfizer.
I went and looked at this data to figure out what do we know about these people in Norway who died after getting the vaccine.
Y Al se fue a buscar los datos sobre esos 23 personas que supuestamente habían muerto después de vacunarse.
All of them, every one of them lived in a nursing home.
Ahora, primero, todos los 23 estaban en una casa de jubilación, eran personas de edad, digamos.
And every day, an average of 45 people die in Norwegian nursing homes or similar institutions. It's therefore to be expected that deaths will occur soon after vaccination without there necessarily being a link to the vaccine, because people die in nursing homes before and after the pandemic.
Sí, o sea, Al dice que las informaciones es que cada día en Noruega hay 45 personas de edad que mueren en las casas de jubilación y que por lo tanto es normal que cada día haya muertes poco después de la vacunación sin que necesariamente haya un nexo entre esas muertes y el hecho de haber sido vacunado.
The fact is that just because they got the vaccine, that's not why they died. They died because they were old and they had other stuff wrong with them.
O sea, básicamente no es porque se vacunaron que murieron, es porque se vacunaron porque tenían su edad, tenían un montón de otros problemas de salud.
If all of those people had their pajamas on when they died, would you write a headline saying pajamas killed these people in the nursing home? No.
O sea, el ejemplo absurdo que toma Al es, okay, si todas esas 23 personas estuvieron con pijama, estuvieron diciendo que los pijamas los mataron, obviamente no.
The fact is, a lot of people in nursing homes wear pajamas.
Okay, we have a message from Sandra. It said she had also skin problems, but it was before getting vaccinated. She's okay. Oh, so she was sensible to your example.
Yeah, and so that's exactly right. I mean, the truth is, people have skin problems.
La verdad, para lo que dice Sandra, es que sí, la gente tiene problemas de
That's
piel.
why we have dermatologists. We had them before the COVID, and we'll have them after the COVID.
Por eso que hay dermatólogos que teníamos antes del COVID y que tendremos después.
You know, I would like to tell people that I don't have very much hair. I would like to be able to believe that it was because of my vaccines, but I didn't have hair before the vaccines.
O sea, Al dice que ya no le quedan muchos pelos, pero le gustaría pensar que es por culpa de la vacunación, pero la vacuna, pero la verdad es que tenía pocos pelos antes de vacunarse.
All right. So I've seen examples like this all around the world where
¿Has visto ejemplos así en todo el mundo?
People get the vaccine and then they die.
Donde
And
gente se vacuna y muere.
this is one of these examples, once again, where something can be accurate, but not true.
Y es otra vez una confirmación de que las cosas pueden ser accurate, pueden ser ciertas, pero sin ser verdaderas.
In the end, the lesson here is clear.
Y al final la lección es clara.
Correlation does not equal causation.
La correlación no es una causa.
And it's one of the big mistakes that people make when they're looking at COVID stories.
Y es uno de los grandes errores que hace mucha gente cuando chequean historias ligadas a la pandemia.
All right. I'm going to say something that may sound odd to you, but I want to explain it. I think there's a chance that journalists may be too fair right now.
Okay, esa es una cosa importante que Al quiere transmitirles. Él piensa que los periodistas a veces se preocupan tanto de ser justos, equilibrados, que lo son demasiado.
In my opinion, you have no journalistic obligation to give voice to blatantly false information.
En su opinión, no hay ninguna obligación periodística de dar voz, de dar eco, de hablar de una información que es obviamente falsa.
What I would say to you is, when you do quote somebody like a government leader who obviously is telling you something that's not true, you should surround it with truth. So
Por ejemplo, cuando tienen una declaración, y eso a todos nos pasa, de un vocero, por ejemplo, de un gobierno, de una alcaldía, que nos dice algo que sabemos es falsa, el punto por hacer es rodear esa falsa información de verdad.
Sometimes false information is delivered by people who are in power, in government authority.
Sí, muy a menudo información falsa está entregada a nosotros por gente de autoridad, gente que está en el poder.
So sometimes you quote them, even though they're wrong. You quote them because they are influencers, they are thought leaders, they are governing officials.
Y a veces, a menudo, citamos gente no porque dicen la verdad, pero porque son autoridades, porque son influencers, y les citamos por eso.
But even when you quote them, I would surround it with truth.
Pero igual si les citan con comillas, yo agregaría, dice la verdad. O sea,
Let me give you an example. This is just a little tiny passage from a news story, but I want to make a point with it.
The Atlanta native is skeptical of the vaccines, thanks in large part due to the legacy of the unethical Tuskegee study in which Black men with syphilis were deliberately not treated. And despite the information she's seen, she worries about potential links to rare conditions like inflammation of the heart, recently reported in 300 of the 20 million young people vaccinated.
But how do I know that that small percentage won't be me?
Britt, who works at an Atlanta record label, says she doesn't trust the vaccine and instead trusts her own immune system.
I would just rather go take vitamin C or make sure that I'm eating healthier just to make sure that on my end it'll be better for my body to fight off rather than just taking the vaccination.
Britt.
The problem here is that we have just let her say that she's going to take vitamin C and eat healthy and use that as a way to fight the virus.
Yeah, just let me explain for the one who didn't get that in English. Basically, básicamente esa es una señora que no tiene confianza en las vacunas y por asuntos históricos de algunas pruebas que se hicieron o no se hicieron en contra de trabajadores afroamericanos, y ella dice, yo prefiero contar sobre mi sistema inmune y tomar vitamina C en contra del COVID. Go on.
So she says she's going to take vitamins and eat healthy food, and she says she's going to do that instead of taking the vaccine.
So ella dice, me voy a comer bien, voy a tomar vitamina C y eso me será suficiente en lugar de vacunar.
But if we don't point out that there is zero evidence that taking vitamins and eating healthy will prevent COVID, we have to surround what she says with that statement.
El problema es que para rodear lo que ella dice de verdad es recordar que hay cero evidencia científica de que tomar vitaminas, comer bien, etcétera, te cura del COVID. O sea, son los datos con los cuales dice que hay que decir.
We might say she falsely believes that taking vitamins are going to keep her from getting the virus, and then let her say what she says.
Sorry, Al, I had can you repeat the last one?
So you might set it up by saying she falsely believes that by eating healthy and taking vitamins, she can avoid the virus, and then use the soundbite.
Ustedes podrían decir, ella cree falsamente que tomar vitaminas es suficiente en contra del COVID.
And then again, after the soundbite, you might say, but studies show that won't help, or studies show that won't keep her healthy.
O después del bite, del extracto de audio, podrían agregar, pero bueno, los estudios no prueban absolutamente nada de lo que ella dice.
Again, I understand why you're using these kinds of sound bites. You're trying to be fair, but I think you're being too fair. I think you're giving too much voice to people who are just spouting nonsense.
Entonces aquí es, según Al, estamos siendo, o sea, si creemos que somos equilibrados, que damos palabra a gente que duda de la vacuna, para él es como que ahí están siendo demasiado justos, dando eco a gente que solamente dice cosas que no tienen sentido.
We just, in the last week, had a very famous football quarterback here in the United States who lied to the public. He said that he led the public to believe he'd been vaccinated when he in fact had not been vaccinated.
Hubo la semana pasada un famoso quarterback de fútbol americano que mintió al público diciendo que había sido vacunado cuando de hecho no lo fue.
And he said when he was asked, have you been vaccinated? He said, I have inoculation.
Y cuando se le preguntó, él dijo, he sido inoculado.
Leading us to believe that he'd been vaccinated, but in fact, he was counting on what's called natural immunity and vitamins and zinc and a couple of other drugs.
Entonces, básicamente, la gente pensó que inoculado había sido vacunado, cuando de hecho él contaba sobre vitaminas, zinc y otros materiales para protegerse.
Now, here's where the real problem comes. He said that he was concerned that there were no long-term studies about how the vaccine affects male fertility.
Entonces, él dijo que estaba preocupado por la ausencia de estudios sobre los posibles efectos de la vacuna sobre la fertilidad masculina.
And my concern is, and I've written about this, my concern is by just allowing him to raise that question without pointing out that there is no evidence that these vaccines affect fertility, then you have allowed him to raise a question that people who don't like vaccines will love.
Y la pregunta es, ¿por qué se autorizó a este señor a levantar una duda que los antivacunas van a amar cuando no hay ninguna prueba de que las vacunas afectan la fertilidad masculina?
So
there's a question from Nicolas. He say, "Hi Al, what is your opinion about the sensationalist titles that only get sense when you read the article, but people only read the lead? Do you think news should stop posting those titles just for attention and clicks?"
Of course. I mean, our job is not to sensationalize; it's to inform. And so, sure, I think it's an important ethics issue that has been with us for over 100 years, as people have been writing headlines that they hoped would sell newspapers and attract radio and television listeners.
Okay. O sea, Nicolás sí dice que, por supuesto, eso es una problemática que viene de hace más de 100 años, de buscar atraer la atención con esos titulares, y por supuesto es un problema ético y no tenemos que hacerlo.
So we got to remember, again, the main point here is I don't think you have any obligation to allow people to say things in your news that you know to be blatantly false, no matter who they are.
Entonces, ahí Al repite, no tienen la obligación de poner en sus noticieros cosas que de fuentes cuando ustedes saben que son falsas. Al, there is an example. Do you remember that guy who fabricated some kind of plane? He wanted to prove that the Earth was not round, but you know, how do you say when it's not round?
Flat.
Flat, yeah.
Flat, yeah. He said it's flat, so I'm going to prove it. He built some kind of big plane with a big, and he went. I think he killed himself or something like that.
But here's the thing. I don't need to give airtime to somebody who says the Earth is flat. I don't care who he is. I don't care what he's doing. I have no reason to give him airtime because the Earth's not flat. And I don't care, I don't care how much he says it. It doesn't make it true.
So, o sea, él dice, mira, yo lo puede decir miles de veces. Sabemos que la Tierra no es plana, sino redonda, y no tengo por qué darle tiempo de noticias.
So why give that any attention at all? All you're doing is feeding the misinformation.
Entonces el problema es que si dan atención a esas cosas, ustedes están nutriendo la desinformación.
Anything else before we plow on?
No, go on.
These days, particularly during a pandemic, there are lots of studies, and I want to warn you that an awful lot of things that claim to be scientific studies, in fact, are not.
Ok, cuidado con los estudios que se multiplican. Hay algunos estudios que pretenden tener bases científicas, pero no siempre lo son.
So here are some things to ask. One, who paid for the study?
Las preguntas, ¿quién pagó para ese estudio?
So if, for example, there was a study that said that the Pfizer vaccine is incredibly safe and really effective, you would need to know, did Pfizer pay for that study?
So, si hay un estudio que dice la vacuna de Pfizer es súper buena, ustedes tenían que estar seguros que Pfizer obviamente no pagó por ese estudio.
Even if Pfizer did pay for the study, it doesn't mean that the study is a bad study, but it is something for you to keep in mind as you're looking at the results.
Hasta si Pfizer pagó para el estudio, eso no significa que el estudio esté necesariamente equivocado, pero sin duda es un punto que tenemos que guardar en mente.
A second question is, does the funder profit from the results of the study?
La segunda pregunta, 1A, es si la persona que paga por el estudio podría sacar un provecho de los resultados.
How big was the study?
¿Qué tan grande, qué tan extenso fue el estudio?
Now, the size of the study doesn't always guarantee that it's accurate, but
el tamaño de la muestra, sí, el tamaño de la muestra no siempre garantiza que sea preciso.
But the smaller the study, the less you can trust it.
Pero sin duda, más pequeño es el estudio, lo menos le pueden confiar.
Remember that science turns on one big question, and that is, can you replicate the results over and over and over again?
Recuerden que la ciencia se basa sobre una cosa simple, es la pregunta de saber si se pueden replicar, duplicar los resultados obtenidos una vez de manera indefinida. Sí.
Has the study been peer reviewed?
Se tienen que preguntar si el estudio ha sido revisado por pares.
This means that there are people who have expertise in the area that you are studying, who look at your data to see if they would reach the same conclusion.
O sea, eso, como saben, los pares son personas que son competentes en el área y pueden estudiar así de manera científica profunda si sus resultados, su metodología son adecuados.
Now, your professors here on our conversation can tell you that there is a lot of pressure on university researchers, professors, to get studies published as quickly as possible.
Creo que ahí Al dice que todos los profesores universitarios presentes aquí pueden confirmar que hay muchísima presión para que publiquemos cada vez más.
But there is so much research that is trying to get published that sometimes researchers cut corners and publish without it being peer reviewed.
Y muy a menudo hay publicaciones que se hacen sin haber sido revisadas por pares.
There's a phrase for this. It's called a pre-pub or pre-publication.
Eso es hay una oración, una expresión que existe que se llama prepublicación.
If you see the words pre-pub on a study, be very, very cautious.
Entonces, si ustedes ven un estudio que dice pre-pub, sean muy cuidadosos. There are a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
In 2020, Washington Post was forced to publish a correction after erroneously reporting that the FBI had raided a house. Do you think that you, as a journalist, when presented with images of people with FBI equipment raiding, let me see, raiding a house, would you assume it was true?
Well, I would want to know a lot of things. First, who took the picture?
Bueno, primero quisiera saber muchas cosas. ¿Quién hizo el video?
Was it a Washington Post photographer?
¿Fue un fotógrafo del Washington Post?
Or was it somebody on YouTube or Instagram?
O alguien en YouTube o Instagram.
You know, I assume nothing is true on Instagram until I prove it to be true.
Yo no asumo que algo es verdadero en Instagram hasta que tenga una prueba de que es cierto.
Now, if the FBI publishes it, then I can always say that the FBI published it and said they're raiding.
Ahora, si el FBI lo publica, bueno, siempre puedo decir, el FBI dice que ha hecho ese raid.
But unless you took the picture, or unless somebody in your news organization took the picture, then I would start by hitting the brake and saying, wait, what do we know about this?
Entonces, a menos que ustedes mismos o alguien de su redacción haya tomado la foto o el video, yo aplastaría el freno para decir, ok, esperemos un rato y estudiamos eso. ¿Quién tomó de dónde viene la imagen?
Back on the studies, ask yourself, how does this study compare to previous findings? And I always ask researchers how they plan to change their own life because of the results.
Ok, otras preguntas que podemos hacernos sobre los estudios es saber si ese estudio tiene resultados comparables o muy diferentes a estudios previos y preguntar a a los investigadores. I didn't see the last question.
Always ask the researchers how their results.
Researchers.
Ask the researchers how the results of their study changed their own life.
Okay, preguntan a los investigadores cómo los resultados de su investigación cambian su propia vida.
I want to talk some about algorithms, then I want to show you some tools.
Él va a hablar un poco de algoritmos y quiere mostrarnos herramientas.
So, who or what determines what shows up on your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed or your Google search?
Entonces, ¿quién o qué determina lo que aparece sobre su feed de Facebook o de Twitter y el orden en el cual Google presenta su resultado de búsqueda?
The answer is, it's an algorithm.
La respuesta es eso, algoritmo.
An algorithm is not a program. It's actually code that tells programs how to display information.
Entonces es básicamente un código que dice cómo los programas deben desplegar la información.
So algorithms tell Google how to display search information. If you're searching for University of Quito, it will say, oh, you're looking for two things, University, Quito, and then it will display the most likely example.
Entonces, básicamente, si ustedes buscan universidades en Quito, va a analizar las dos palabras claves, Universidad Quito, y les desplegará la respuesta más probable.
So algorithms it's not a program. It tells programs how to act.
Entonces, los algoritmos no son un programa, dicen a los programas cómo actuar.
So, for example, Google uses an algorithm that prioritizes the source, so .edu or a government or .com, .org. If you're a university or a government, Google will always display you higher than if you're a .com.
Okay, primero, el algoritmo de Google da prioridad a la fuente, que, por ejemplo, todo lo que es oficial, gobierno, educación, va a tener más prioridad porque se supone que son más confiables.
Google also uses the algorithm to look at popularity. So part of how it figures out what it's going to prioritize is based on who is linked to what and who has shared information, links and shares.
Entonces también se basa sobre la popularidad, basado sobre quién comparte o se enlaza al sitio con otros y cómo están compartiendo.
It also looks, for example, at words in headlines. Proper nouns score much higher. So if, for example, I was looking at the University of Quito.
Al, what is a nouns? What is a nouns? N-O-U.
A noun. A proper noun is like Eric is a proper noun. Al is a proper noun. Quito is a proper noun. So a proper noun is a word, a place, or a thing that almost always has a capital letter.
Ok, un nombre propio es algo que casi siempre viene con una letra capital, dice, por ejemplo, Quito o algo así. Entonces, eso también es importante que los nombres en el headlines, las palabras utilizadas sean las correctas.
So, example, cell phone is not a proper noun. Apple is a proper noun.
Por ejemplo, celular no es un nombre propio, Apple lo es.
So it gives a very high weight to proper nouns. Why? Because if I was looking for a university, I probably would look for the name of the university.
Entonces, si yo busco una universidad, probablemente pondría el nombre de la universidad.
Now, what about Facebook? Facebook was in the news recently, as you probably know, because Facebook always said that the emoticons that people use, that is the like or love or dislike or angry, they don't have dislike, like, love, angry. Facebook always said that all of those weighed the same.
Facebook, también otro ejemplo con Facebook, que está en la actualidad, como bien saben, que utiliza emoticons, ¿no? Ama, no ama, etc. Facebook siempre dijo que el peso de esos emoticons era el mismo.
But now we know that's not true.
Pero ahora sabemos que no es cierto.
It turns out that angry ends up getting priority over everything else.
Ocurre que cuando tienes un emoticon de angry, enojado, este va a tener prioridad sobre cualquier otro.
This is very controversial because it's one reason why misinformation gets so much more play is because when people are angry about something, it shows up in more people's feed.
Entonces, eso es una de las razones por las cuales las noticias, la desinformación es más replicada que otras, porque la gente que lee eso sabe que es falso, se enoja, ponle me enojo y eso contribuye a que la información falsa tenga más audiencia.
Facebook also rewards shares and comments.
Facebook también da recompensa a compartir y los comentarios, cuando hay comentarios.
The idea is if you took time to comment on something or share something, it must have been important to you and other people probably will be interested as well.
La lógica con eso es básicamente que si la gente se toma la molestia de comentar, es que probablemente es importante o eso va a provocar discusión, que hay un interés alrededor de esa temática.
All right. Now let me show you some ways that fakers do their business. This is a video of one of the most powerful people in American politics. Her name is Nancy Pelosi. She is the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Esa es una speaker de la Cámara de los Diputados, Nancy Pelosi, una de las mujeres más poderosas de Estados Unidos.
And this video showed up online.
Este video fue mostrado
en. To do what?
To accuse a TV host of murder on Twitter.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. What did he do?
So when she talks like that, it makes her look like something's wrong.
O sea, cuando habla así, parece que algo está mal.
I'm sorry, to do what?
To accuse a TV host of murder on Twitter.
Notice that it has video of her with a glass to her mouth, a cup to her mouth. She appears to be drinking something.
Viene con ella tomando algo.
And the rumors were that she was drunk.
Y el rumor fue que estaba borracha.
So, as a fact checker, what I want to do is find the original source of information.
Entonces, como fact checker, o sea, como una persona que verifica los hechos, quiero saber cuál es la fuente original.
And so all I'm doing now is just pulling up the original video.
Entonces tengo que buscar el video original.
You're asking me about the appropriateness of the actions of this president of the.
Doesn't sound anything like that other video.
En el video original, digamos, no suena igual.
So how did they do that? How did they make her sound like she was drunk?
Entonces, ¿cómo hicieron eso? ¿Cómo hicieron parecer que ella estaba tomada?
So all I'm going to do is take that video, drop it into Adobe Premiere.
Entonces, todo lo que hace es que va a coger el video original de la conferencia de prensa y lo va a poner en Adobe Premiere.
I'll play the video.
Lo va a jugar.
Now, I'm just going to click on the video and go down to speed duration.
Va a modificar la velocidad del video.
And I'm going to click on speed duration.
Va a hacer clic sobre la velocidad.
And I'm going to slow it down to 80% of its normal speed. So slow it down by 20%.
Y lo va a bajar de 20% de 100 a 80.
And now I'm going to play it.
Y ahorita lo va a pasar.
Asking me about the appropriateness.
Okay, so the problem there is that it's changed the pitch of the audio.
Alors, ha cambiado el pitch del audio aquí, el problema.
So I'm just going to click this box that says maintain audio pitch.
Entonces va a hacer el clic así en lo que dice maintain audio pitch.
So now what it's going to do is slow it down, but keep the pitch of the original audio. You won't be able to tell it was slowed down.
Entonces ahorita va a mantener la velocidad a 80%, pero va a mantener el pitch del audio. Para que no sepan que ha sido puesto lento.
And that's all there is. So that's exactly what they did. They slowed it down and then they clicked on maintain audio pitch, and 15 seconds later they had believable video.
Y es lo que hicieron. O sea, bajaron la velocidad, mantuvieron el pitch del audio y tuvieron un audio de la Nancy Pelosi pareciendo tomada.
And so while she was attacking the president's people were using this video to accuse her of being drunk at her press conference.
Y obviamente, mientras que ella atacaba al presidente Trump sobre su política, los partidarios de Trump utilizaron ese video para atacarle a ella.
Now, you probably know that Photoshop, which is another Adobe product, can be used to alter photographs. So I'm going to take this photo of some carvings on a tree. And I'm just going
una foto de unas marcas sobre un árbol.
And I'm going to use a tool in Photoshop called Content Aware Fill.
Y va a utilizar una herramienta de Photoshop que se dice Content Aware Fill.
And all you have to do is drag it over parts of the image and it will replace whatever it is you drag over. So let's get rid of that scar.
Entonces, por ejemplo, quiere librarse de esa cicatriz.
Okay, I'll get rid of one of the initials there.
Va a sacar una inicial acá.
And it gets rid of the scar and just replaces it with what it thinks might be there before that thing was carved in.
Y tú puedes reemplazar, digamos, esa marca por lo que tú piensas que estaba presente antes de que se ponga el nombre en el corazoncito.
And so this is what we started with. This is what we ended up with. And it took a second or two of work to do that.
Entonces, en lugar de tener MEB o M no sé qué, solo tenemos M, y eso es algo que se hace en Adobe Photoshop en segundos.
So we know that Photoshop can get rid of things. Now, it's also made it easier to get rid of people, because one of the things that Photoshop knows is that one of the tools that is used most often is to remove people from photographs. Maybe a boyfriend you don't like, or a girlfriend that no longer is your girlfriend.
O sea, Photoshop sabe que también hay un uso fuerte para remover no cosas, sino gente, que sé yo, ya no tienen, cambiaron de amigo, de esposo, de whatever, y ya no lo quieren en la foto.
So now all you have to do is click on that person. If you want to get rid of her, you can click on her and it will automatically define that person. It knows what you're trying to do.
O sea, solo si ponen la clic, la X, dice yo no quiero esa persona, el programa automáticamente va a delimitar esa persona porque sabe lo que quieren hacer.
You use Content Aware Fill and it removes them from the photograph.
Content Aware Fill, y ahí el resultado.
Now, if you look in the background back there, you'll see that there are some bushes that it put in the background, but they don't look real.
En el fondo hay algunos arbolitos, ¿no?
So if you click on it again, it'll try again and it'll find something that looks better.
Entonces, si no les gusta el arbolito que se puso en el final, hagan clic de nuevo y buscar a otro fondo que funciona mejor.
So the photograph you started with got rid of her and you would never know she was there.
Okay, entonces, antes, después.
In 10, 15 seconds of work.
En 15 segundos de trabajo.
Now, this same thing is now brand new in in a couple of other ways. Until now, content-aware fill has been used to get rid of things. But the new
content-aware news ha sido utilizado por desaparecer cosas.
But the new content-aware fill also adds things. So let's say, for example, we've got this butterfly who's got part of his wing missing.
Pero ahorita el mismo programa no solamente saca cosas, sino que agrega cosas. Ese es un animal que ustedes ven que le falta una parte de su ala.
If you click on that with content-aware fill, it will add back what it's missing.
Hagan clic sobre esa parte y agregar a la parte de ala que hace falta.
That's content-aware fill, the new 2021 version.
Eso es la versión nueva del 2021, la que agrega elementos.
All right, one more thing. Premiere, in its new 2021 version, allows you to do the same things that you do with content-aware fill in still pictures.
Alors, también es posible hacerlo en fotos, en still pictures.
So, I've got, this is Adobe Premiere After Effects.
Eso es After Effects de Adobe Premiere.
So I've got a horse and a rider and a shadow and waves on the beach.
Okay, tiene un caballo, alguien encima y la sombra.
If I wanted to get rid of the horse, the rider, and the shadow, all I would have to do is click on them. It will remove them. But look, the waves are still going back and forth, and you can even see the hoof prints on the sand.
Okay, ahí por ejemplo suprimió el caballo, la gente y la sombra, pero todavía pueden ver las huellas del caballo en la arena.
This used to take at least an hour, maybe 2 hours to do this well. And now you can do it with one click using content-aware fill on Adobe After Effects.
Antes, por ejemplo, librarse de las olas movidas por el paso del caballo, las huellas del caballo en la arena, te tomaba 1 hora o 2 de trabajo para que realmente no se vea. Ahorita se hace en un clic.
All right. I want to show you one more thing in the time that we've got left, and that is how to find out where a photo came from. So,
ahí les quería enseñar para determinar de dónde viene una foto.
So this is my son, and it looks like he's in Washington, D.C.
Eso es su hijo y parece que está en Washington.
But if I wanted to know where is he exactly and when was this photograph taken,
pero si quieres saber dónde está exactamente y dónde fue tomada la fotografía,
all I would have to do is take this photograph and look at what's called the metadata.
Y todo lo que tendría que hacer es tomar esa fotografía y mirar por las metadatas.
Metadata stays with the document until it's removed.
Esos metadatos se mantienen con el documento hasta ser removidos.
So I'm going to use a website called Jeffrey's EXIF Viewer.
Va a utilizar Jeffrey's EXIF Viewer.
And that's the website there. You can screen grab that if you want.
Eso es la página web, lo pueden utilizar.
So all I'm going to do is just import that photograph.
Él va a importar esa fotografía.
So I'm just going to import the photograph into Jeffrey's Viewer and view the image data. And look what it tells me. It tells me the photograph was captured on March 23rd, 2018.
Y ahí aparecen toda la información en la parte de izquierda. Que la
it shows me the latitude and longitude.
Te da la latitud, la longitud, la fecha de 23 de marzo 2018.
It estimates what the address would be given those coordinates.
Estima la dirección diciendo, mira, según las coordenadas, eso es la dirección donde fue tomada.
And it will actually drop that onto a map to show you that he was standing at the United States Capitol facing in the westward direction.
Hasta te mostrará en un mapa donde estaba la persona que fue fotografiada.
And it will show you all the ways this photograph has been altered since its original.
Y te mostrará todas maneras de todas las alteraciones eventualmente que se hizo subir a esta fotografía desde la original.
And all of this data is traveling with that photograph.
Toda esa información viaja con la fotografía.
So anytime you've got a picture, all you have to do is look for the metadata. The metadata rides with the image.
Just a question, it's free?
It's absolutely free.
Es gratis, ¿no? Y yo recuerdo a todos ustedes, ya estamos por terminar, ¿no? Las 7, vamos a cerrar, pero es tan interesante lo que da, podemos quizás un par de minutos más, pero toda esa presentación será pública, ¿no? O sea, todo lo que dice Al lo pondremos a su disposición, por supuesto, y de sus profesores y universidades.
To close, what I would say is a few things. Remember a few things. One, there's a difference between accuracy and truth, and that's context.
Recuerden cosas, hay una diferencia entre precisión y verdad, y esa diferencia es el contexto.
If what somebody is claiming is too amazing for you to think is true, then ask a lot of questions.
Si algo es demasiado bello para ser verdad, probablemente no lo es, por lo menos háganse preguntas.
Ask whether the source profits from you believing the facts in a certain way.
Recuerden que van a tratar de hacer que ustedes crean los hechos de una cierta manera.
Remember that there's a difference between correlation and causation.
Hay una diferencia entre la correlación y lo que provoca el hecho. La causation, no estoy seguro de que sé cómo sé, pero digamos lo que provoca algo, lo que causa algo.
Remember that images and video can be easily altered now.
Recuerden que todo lo que es audio y video puede ser muy fácilmente alterado hoy.
And one of the best ways to find out is to look at the metadata.
Y la mejor manera de ver si hubo alteraciones es buscar en los metadatos.
Listen, I said to you in the earlier session, and I want to reiterate, I really appreciate this time to be with you. I really honor your choices to be a journalism student, and I hope that we'll welcome you into this craft and profession because we need smart people like you to be out there reporting.
Al quiere repetir lo que dijo al final de la primera conferencia, que realmente valora que ustedes hayan puesto de su tiempo para acompañarle, que ustedes hayan decidido ser periodistas, estudiar periodismo en ese sentido. Al, I just have one question. You remember those, what do we do when people do not accept facts? Like, you know, that famous photo, you know, for the first day of Trump, and he was like, there were more people than with Obama, and there was 2 photos showing that. What do you do when the 2 photos are true and people, you know, we see 2 photos and people say, no, that's not true. You know what they call.
Well, here's the thing. I can't be responsible for your decisions. I can only be responsible for my decisions.
Okay, lo que dice es que no podemos ser responsables de las decisiones de otros, somos solo las nuestras.
So, it's not my job to change your mind. It's my job to give you information that if you want to change your mind, you can.
No es mi trabajo de cambiar su opinión. Mi trabajo es darle los datos para que si ustedes quieren cambiar de opinión, lo podrán hacer con información verificada.
So, if a person doesn't want to change their mind, then no amount of proof is going to help.
Y si básicamente alguien no quiere cambiar de opinión, no importa la cantidad de pruebas que van a dar, no, eso no ayudará si la gente no quiere.
I would say, though, that we need to make it safe for people to change their mind. So if
sería bueno que sea seguro si la gente quiere cambiar de opinión.
When someone changes their mind, that's not the time to remind them that they used to believe something else.
Entonces, por ejemplo, cuando alguien cambia de opinión, por ejemplo, sale del complotismo o algo así, no es un buen momento de recordarles que se habían equivocado antes.
A better way to approach them might be to say, look, I'm really proud of you for having looked at the evidence and seeing things in another way.
Capaz que deberíamos ser más diplomáticos y decir, mira, has visto la evidencia y has cambiado, estoy súper orgulloso de ti.
If we ever get to a point where dialogue doesn't change minds, then we'll be in a real bad state.
Si llegamos a un punto en el cual el diálogo no permite cambiar de opinión, realmente estaremos mal, dice Al.
Mostly people don't change their mind because they have a fear.
La mayor parte del tiempo la gente no cambia de opinión porque tiene miedo.
For most of us, it's not convenient for us to change our mind.
Por nosotros, de hecho, no es conveniente cambiar de opinión.
Initially, when climate change came in, people started talking about climate change. A lot of people didn't want to believe it, because if they did believe it, think of all the things they would have to stop doing and all the things they would have to start doing.
Cuando empezamos a hablar de cambio climático, mucha gente no quiso porque era demasiado complicado. O sea, todo lo que estamos viendo ahora se iba a tener que cambiar tantas cosas en nuestras vidas que la gente prefería no aceptar eso.
So we all have people in our family who don't want to change their mind.
Todos tenemos en la familia gente que no quiere cambiar de opinión.
Make it safe for them. Don't lecture them. Don't be so frustrated with them. Try to find out what stops them from changing their mind.
Traten de encontrar qué es lo que les bloquea por cambiar de opinión. No sean frustrados, no les den la lección, no sean así como que demasiado, o sea, como que ya te dije, etcétera, etcétera. Traten de ser diplomáticos.
Eric, I hope that I get to see you in person in the coming year.
So. I was in Florida a few days ago, but not in St. Petersburg. I will try to go next time.
Well, you better never come to St. Petersburg and not call me, my friend. Listen, thanks a million, everybody, for letting me come be with you. It's a real pleasure and an honor, and I hope it's useful.
No, it has been very, very useful, Al. Thank you again for everything. Hola a todos, si quieren despedir a Al, yo no sé si sus micrófonos están abiertos, pero si no, bueno, un chao, un emoticón en la cosa.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for everything. Nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
And tomorrow, guys, we have we begin tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
I open doors of hell. Okay, guys, let me stop saying bye to Hal. Tomorrow morning, 8:30, we're going to speak about health journalism. And at the end, we will have 3 young journalists from Ecuador who are having success in New York, the Big Apple, which is probably one of the most competitive cities in the world. And they are going to explain us what it took them, what ship they have to change, what networking they had to do. That is going to be the program of tomorrow for the 3rd day. Tengan una excelente noche mañana, Periodismo de Salud de mañana, y 3 de nuestros graduados que nos van a contar cómo tener éxito en la Gran Manzana, qué tipo de chips tenemos que cambiar, qué tipo de networking tenemos que hacer. Eso será el 3er día del Congreso Periodismo en Debate. Gracias a todos. Chao, hasta mañana.